when they're talking during a meeting, Okonko looks over at one of the men who is talking, because of course the man doesn't have too much, hasn't achieved very much. And Okonko looks at him and he says to him, "This meeting is for men." The man who had contradicted him had no titles. That was why he had called him a woman. Okonko knew how to kill a man's spirit. Hello, good morning. Today we start off our conversation about great ideas in Things Fall Apart. We will start by reading the insert found at the beginning of the book. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. From the poem, I'd like to draw three ideas. The first idea is the one about the falcon. So when the falconer throws him out and he goes to fetch game, his point of coming back, his point is the call that he gets from the falconer. And so the idea here is that because of the ensuing chaos that is happening all around him, the wind is changing, there's a lot of disruption, the falcon cannot hear its falconer. The second idea is about the center. So here an image is conveyed where you have a center upon which everything else is built. And when the center gives, then you have everything else collapsing all around it. Okay? And so obviously the center is very important to the continuation or to the survival of the whole edifice. And then the third point is when disorder erupts, right? When he says, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. Now, there's nothing mere about anarchy, as us who have lived through the various anarchical situations, be it when university students decide to run around and have some kind of protest, or you remember the horrific experiences we've had with post-election violence. There's nothing mere about anarchy. Anarchy is terrifying, to say the least. So when Yeats here, and by extension, therefore, Achebe is saying that near anarchy is loosed upon the world, he's talking about something which is very terrifying because it is the entrance and the introduction of disorder in a society. So what are we going to see here? That the things that hold us, that center us, and that keep the structure of anything alive and keep the structure, our structure, stable, right? That is about to be removed and anarchy will ensue. Before we discuss Omofia and Okonko, I would like us to just pause a little bit and talk about Unoka. Unoka is a man who I have such a soft spot for. Because I think we all have an Unoka in our life. He's a good man and he's not bad. He just likes to be around people, have fun, enjoy himself. But most importantly, Unoka really is talented. Unoka is a fantastic flute player, right? And so I think my soft spot for Unoka is always because I think that perhaps Unoka should have been born at a different time. Maybe he would have survived better. Because of course here where people survive through the labor of their hands and it's grueling, and it seems that artistry and entertainment is only during a certain period of time, yeah? The period after the harvest. After that, it's all go, survival. And it's hard for people like Unoka. So I've always wondered that, I wonder if Unoka would have survived at a different time. Or if, no, Unoka was just lazy. Regardless, I always like to pause a little bit and, just take a moment and think about the Unokas out there and think about, the people who do provide entertainment and are wonderful for us, but somehow, for some strange reason, they've never made it in the way that we classify making it in our society. In Omofia, you prove your worth. You earn your title, you earn your space to become one of the elders in the village. And of course, then this is how Okonko manages to become one of the village elders. Achebe tells us, age was respected among his people, but achievement was revered. As the elders said, if a child washed his hands, he could eat with kings. Achievement was revered. Let's pause and think about that for a moment. Obviously, achievement should be celebrated. Achievement should be lauded in any functioning society, of course. My concern here was about the use of the word revered, because there's a tendency, I wonder, don't you think, that once we begin to revere mere achievement without revering perhaps the character, perhaps the qualities that created that achievement, then people would be running forward to only get the achievements, not caring about how they got there. So let's just bear that in mind, that in this society, that was what was happening, that achievements were being revered. And with the more achievements you had, then the more you were respected in that society. I wonder what we are as a people here in Kenya. Because of course, yes, we are Kenyans, but we're also Africans. And we're also East Africans. I wonder who we really are. We say we're a hardworking people. We say we're a prayerful people as Kenyans. As East Africans, we're friendly people. But the one thing that often eludes me is, in terms of our beliefs, in terms of who we are, what is that? Who are we? When we're not defining ourselves in colonial terms. You know, we were colonized by the British and this is what happened to us. We were colonized by the Germans in the case of the Tanzanians. Who are we really? Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Yeah. And now we turn to our main character, Okonko. Okonko is a bit scary, isn't he? I wonder if you knew Okonko in life, you would have wanted to be friends with him, or you respect him, but from far, right? Okonko is not an evil man, he's not a bad man, but he's clearly a man who is out to prove something, right? Okonko has not had an easy life. So, of course, that's why we respect him. That, you know, in these times when things were so difficult, when he had no inheritance, when precisely he's in a society that is respecting all these things and he doesn't have any. He comes from a father who people make fun of and who was lazy. And Okonko has to prove himself, right, among these people. So Okonko's success is hard won. And Okonko can't be an easy person to be around, yeah? What are we told here? That Okonko knew how to kill a man's spirit. Remember at one point in time, when they're talking during a meeting, Okonko looks over at one of the men who is talking, because of course the man doesn't have too much, hasn't achieved very much. And Okonko looks at him and he says to him, "This meeting is for men." The man who had contradicted him had no titles. That was why he had called him a woman. Okonko knew how to kill a man's spirit. Okonko didn't suffer fools or didn't suffer lazy people. We now look at Okonko, the man within the family. We are told a very endearing story about when the children come, they bring him food from their mother's huts, and he sits with them and he talks to them. Yeah, even the girls, yeah, they talk a little bit. He tells them, okay, sit like a woman, etc. So there's this kind of engagement that he does have with his children. Ironically, in the modern world, I don't know how many of us actually have that relationship with our kids, from where the dinner table and that interaction, wisdom and traditions are passed down from one generation to the other. Or is there a relationship where normally we're just sitting and lecturing them all the time? But in the case of Okonkwo, you see this. You see, he sits with them, he talks to them, and they tell him different things. So that was very endearing to see. He's a human being. He's got his weaknesses, but also he's got some very good points, and he's got a human side to him. And what holds Okonkwo together is that he lives in a community that has very clear guidelines about what has to be done. He knows, he works hard, he gets his place in society. So Okonkwo is clear about himself and about his space in this world, in this community, call it what you might. In other words, the structure that makes the man that is Okonkwo, the structure that he responds to, and is a structure that makes sense to him. Despite this structure, we are told that Okonkwo, deep down in Okonkwo, his whole life was dominated by fear. The fear of failure and of weakness. Even as a little boy, he had resented his father's failure and weaknesses. And even now, he still remembered how he had suffered when a playmate had told him that his father was Agbala. That was how Okonkwo first came to know that Agbala was not only another name for a woman, it could also mean a man who had taken no title. A man who had taken no title. So titles were important for Okonkwo. And so Okonkwo was ruled by one passion, to hate everything that his father Unoka had loved. One of those things was gentleness and another was idleness. Notice, they're the traditions and the laws which rule Umofia, and Okonkwo is part of that. But there are also the fears, there's also the experiences that Okonkwo has gone through, and these also rule him. We, like Okonkwo, we live in a dual space. Our first space is here where we inhabit the country, the laws that we keep in this country. Then you've also got the laws of your family. You've also got the laws of the office where you work, the community where you live. And then there's always that one thing, or always those few qualities that also guide us as people. And whenever you start analyzing or thinking through the person that we are right now, we need to take these two factors into play. What has happened to us on the outside and how that has impacted us on the inside and made us the people that we are. Well, there we are. Chapter 1 to chapter 6, including the poem, we've been introduced to the idea of center. What lies at the heart of Okonkwo? What is the heart of Umofia? What is their center? What makes them who they are? What makes Okonkwo the man that he is? In understanding what makes something what it is, how it got to be there, in many ways, we're also understanding why they act the way that they do. And in a way, it will probably be a predictor and a determinant from which we can then gauge their actions or have an explanation for their actions. Points to ponder from these first few chapters is what lies at my center, what lies at my organization center, what is the center of my family, how did we get to where we are, what determines our actions, what are the rules that guide what we do.